Yes, but it's a great citizen of the continent and a global citizen for that matter. Dr. Boaz Keizire is the head of policy and advocacy at Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. That is based in Nairobi, Kenya. He has over 15 years working experience in the areas of agriculture and natural resource policy planning and analysis, as well as rural development in Africa. Prior to joining AGRA, he has held, was head of the Division of Agriculture and Food Security and team lead of the Pan-African Agricultural Reform Program that we call the Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Program. That's for short CAADP at the African Union Commission that is based in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. His presentation today, therefore, will be on to share his experience on what he has been doing. This is what he breathes. He's so enthusiastic about talking about these issues all the time. So we're talking about CAADP and farming systems in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome the first presenter, Professor Oluwole Fatunbi, middle name Abiodun. You are welcome, Prof. Yeah,
thank you very much, Dr. Laide, for the good introduction. And good morning to, is it good morning, good afternoon, good day to everyone, depending on where you are joining us. I'm so excited to see my good brother, Boaz, online today, and he will be speaking to issues that we have interacted on around it. I think both of us are the son of the continent, and you will so see the passion with which he will express his thoughts and the passion in me also. Possibly we want Africa to grow and to develop. I know that I have a very short time, so permit me to quickly upload my presentation. And please confirm if you can hear me clearly so that I move on.
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay.
And the presentation is in
Yes,
real presentation mode.
You're able to see the presentation.
The presentation is not yet in presentation mode.
Okay, please let me just do that. A moment, please. I need to do that on another. Okay. Is it in presentation mode now?
Not yet.
Okay, a moment. Just don't worry.
Yeah.
Using it to screen.
POE.
Not yet also.
You know, POE is the best way to become a that's the best route. You could have reason at least, but
okay, I'm the next I'm the next POE man.
Can you mute yourself, please?
You're training back. I'll train you when I have time. I'll give you the best option ever. You just
Can you mute yourself, please, Tabitha?
Sorry?
Tabitha, can you mute yourself?
Is it in presentation mode now?
Not yet, please.
Not yet. Okay. Yeah. So what do we do? Because of time, maybe I should just...
Maybe you just proceed, sir. Yes, just go ahead.
It's all right. Okay, thank you very much.
I think it's fine now.
Okay. Yeah. I have titled this short discussion, Understanding African Farming and Food Systems, an Imperative for Africans Grown and Owned Transition. And you will wonder why I do this. Because I'm wondering, what component of this discussion should I give to this type of forum? And I made certain assumption that the individuals I'm talking to here, they are people who understand research to some extent, who understand Africa agriculture, and they are savvy with technical language. And so I think it will be important to look at it from this title that I just crafted this morning. The first question I'm posing is, what is farming system itself? Because you need to understand this very well so that you don't confuse farming system with many other things that people call farming system, and they are not. I think farming system itself is just those two words, farming and system. And when you understand what a system is made up of interrelated elements that must work together to deliver a coherent output. So interrelated elements, a motor car, I love to use that often, is a system. So farming also operates within a system. When we say farming system, you begin to see things like decision making, appropriate use of production resources, production assets. I mean, the issues of marketing, the issues of livelihood, the issues of soil itself, plants, and the socio-cultural environment that govern the use of all these issues. So all of these issues that I just mentioned and many more, they must relate with one another. And I observe that their relationship, in fact, they depend on one another in a very delicate manner, such that a change in one of the elements affects the whole output. I put in this slide some definitions that you see, and this gives you a brief on what farming system is. But more importantly, we tend to use the Dixon et al. 2001 and the FAO definition. I mean, it defines farming system as a complex interrelated matrix of soil, plants, animal, implement, power, labor, capital, and other inputs, and that's farming system. Now, in recent time, the subject of farming system and food system is beginning to create conflict of understanding. And I don't want to preempt my brother Boaz is going to be talking about food system. And I think AGRA, his organization, gives a lot of attention to food system. But we need to avoid the scenario of the chicken and the egg. We need to avoid this causality dilemma on which one is big and require attention and which one. Someone will say the chick came before the egg and the egg came before the chick. That's causality issue. You need to understand also that farming is more than food, because farming generates other commodities other than food. And not all foods came from farm. So when you begin to look at food system, you need to broaden your mind and your understanding, because you are looking at more complex, more diverse type of issue. So you get some food from farming, some others from what we call blue economy, the sea, and other terrestrial ecosystem that are outside the farming. I mean, having said that in a way to create a background, you discover that there are about 17 farming systems that are defined by FAO. I mean, Dixon et al. Also represented this in his publication in the year 2020, and that's what I'm trying to depict with this map of Africa, showing the different farming systems. When you look at them, you will discover that these farming systems, they are labeled or they are classified mainly based on the commodity and the natural resource domain where these commodities are grown. But there is this other what I call agricultural transition model that are prominent in recent time. In the last 1 decade, you have heard about intensive agriculture. You've heard about sustainable intensification. You've heard about agroecology, organic agriculture, permaculture, in fact, food sovereignty. I know that Olawale talks so much about regenerative agriculture, precision farming, agroforestry, nutrition-sensitive agriculture, sustainable food and value chain, and African food system. Now, all of these that I've just mentioned, they are not farming systems. They are agriculture transition model. And this agriculture transition model, they came up to influence farming systems. In other words, things like regenerative agriculture, okay, is a model, and it should be able to find its placement in the key farming system. So if you're going to actually foster a change, you need to take the transitional models and fit them to bring forth a change in the different farming system. Let me say this, that farming system isn't going to change in its resource domain or in its commodity domain, but the way activities are carried out within the farming system is what we mean when we say farming system transition. Now, let me move on. Now, you want to ask me that farming system, we've been talking about farming system needs to change in Africa. And you want to know why should farming system change. I pitched 3 issues here that you must be familiar with very well, and I use word clouds to describe the other issues here. I mean, structural problems that we have with, and it cut across all farming systems that are defined, is the issue of poverty, food insecurity, the degrading natural resource base, the issues lately, the issues of climate change. When I say lately, I'm talking about 2 decades, and the issues of inequality. These are structural problems. Structural problems, they are intrinsic within the system. I mean, in Africa, agriculture is almost synonymous with poverty. And that is because our agriculture is smallholder driven. I mean, it is there. It is a sector that everybody refers to when you lose your job in the city. And you know, because majority of the people whose livelihood revolve around agriculture are poor. You see, the issue of food insecurity is also there. Then, if you understand resource base in Africa, you'll see that our resource base is actually very fragile. I just stepped out of a meeting to move into this one, but we were talking about soil in Africa, soil degradation. You will not understand soil degradation in Africa until you understand African soil. And you know that African soil is the weakest, the most fragile across the globe. I mean, we can talk about that another time. There are other issues like there are issues of operational inefficiency, inappropriate policy, external influences of research model. In fact, external influences is quite important because there is a lot of pressure on Africa to move in certain direction for change in its farming and in its food system. There are other common institutional barriers like land tenure issue, access to credit, access to input, trade policy, product regulation, infrastructural development, and all those things. When you put all these things together, they are the things that influence our farming system. So by and large, our farming system is attacked from different angles, and that is why it is unsustainable. The productivity is very low. Even when we are talking about the same commodity and you are using the same, technology for production of that commodity compared to other areas, you still discover that the yield gap is very high, and that affects the sustainability of the different farming system. When you look at the other side of this slide, you see I use word cloud because there are many words to describe it. You know, adaptation. We need to do a lot of adaptation and drought. You know, the issue of improving, and how do you improve? The issue of soil health, ecological services, recycling, and all these things. All these things fit together to describe the type of things we want out of our farming system. Now, what will change in the farming system if we want to transit? We want to change in our farming system. I think from empirical evidence, our cultivation practices need to change. Why will that change? Because of the fragility of our natural resource base. You know, we need to think strongly about resource use management. We need to think about resource use management and strongly use best practice. Then we need to be cautious about the use of external inputs. Then our approach to trading, to marketing, and the economics of the production system itself will require a change. Possibly integration of new social elements will be vital, and we need to manage everything to have sustainability. Now, the word sustainability is the key word in all of these things. You know, you understand the definition of sustainability. I think in one of my slides, I will still get there. Now, we had an engagement supported by AGRA in a grant to FARA last year to quickly look at how we foster transition in the farming system vis-a-vis food system. And this slide I'm showing, we put together the different models that can help, that are known now and could help to foster farming system transition to what we desire in Africa. I particularly run this analysis in that meeting, and we use multidimensional analysis technique to come up with index of suitability. Now, when you look at the first column, you see that I put the models there: intensive agriculture, sustainable intensification, sustainable farming system, agroecology, you know, and so on and so forth. And we use, I truncated this table so that it can just fit into this slide. I mean, we put about 25 variables, and we run scoring using multidimensional analysis, and we came up with this index. You will see it strongly here that the models that are prominent here is sustainable farming system. You see it's called 5. The issue of food sovereignty also come up, precision agriculture come up. And that is because each of these models, they have strength and they have weaknesses, and we placed all those things. Now, that's underscore sustainable farming system as the model we should use. And those who are savvy around agroecology will be wondering, why not agroecology? I mean, Olawale, we even ask the question, why not regenerative agriculture or nutrition sensitive agriculture? All of these, they have their merit and they have their demerit. But when you place this on the different variables that you need, it filters out the index. I will give attention from this point to sustainable farming system. Now, look carefully at this slide. This slide is an important slide to me. And this slide did a pre-analysis of how we should transition as a continent. And when you look at it, now, when you look at this axis, you see natural resource ecosystem. From the bottom, it's talking about low biodiversity, low dependence on agroecological process. But at the top, high dependence. Then the other slide is talking about low level of human control, so that things are just like that. But this one is highly managed. When you look at this other angle where my cursor is, it's talking about conventional agricultural system. And that is where you use machinery, you do a lot of silage, you use fertilizer, you use agrochemical. What is gradually growing in Africa, but in Southeast Asia, in the West, in the West generally, this is the conventional system, highly intensive. And what you observe from conventional system is highly productive system, but you discover that it has certain detrimental effect on their natural resource base, despite the fact that some of the soils are rich in organic matter. I mean, the use of agrochemicals has been indicted to have detrimental effect on ecological processes. And that is bedefiling the conventional agriculture. Now, Africa, I mean, does not have large size of its production around conventional system. You know that the current use of fertilizer in Africa is an average of 17 kilogram nutrient per hectare, while in some other culture, the average is already like 300, some places 400. The least you find from the developed country is 800. But the question for us is, can Africa afford to use so much fertilizer like that? And I'm going to tell you the truth here, that Africa cannot go that way because of the nature of its natural resource. It cannot go that way. So neither can we leave our food production to natural ecosystem at the other end of the graph. You see, natural ecosystem, and someone talked about organic agriculture or production, as you know, those things, thinking that it does not require any effort. Just put your seed and harvest your crop and had nothing. No, I doubt if that is what organic agriculture is also talking about. So you see in the middle, the traditional farming system, or what we can call what we practice currently in Africa, very low external input, a lot of it's labor intensive, the productivity is not very high. We mine soils we mine the nutrients in the soil with very little or no replacement at all. You know, it goes that way. Now, there is at the upper edge, the agroecological system. The agroecological system is simply talking about, use fertilizer, but model use of fertilizer. And you discover that it gives a lot of attention to how high biodiversity, high dependence on the ecological processes. That is without manipulating the ecology, let it run, but just minimal manipulation so that you can produce. And we observe that this system is actually knowledge and labor intensive. While it can produce, but can it produce maximally? Recent studies actually showed that agroecological system, yes, can give yield, but not as conventional, okay? And when it gives the yield, then the economic component of the sustainability matrix becomes an issue. I think there is a call now from the EC to look at what type of marketing model we can develop for agroecology. Now look at where we are positioning Africa, sustainably intensified system. And then I think that one speaks to sustainable farming system. You know, it sits in the middle there, maximizing the advantage of high level human control, medium labor intensity, and good cognizance to biodiversity. And that stays in the middle there. I think from our ongoing effort, this is where we think Africa should be. Let me move on. Now, Africa is going to change. And from personal sentiment, I think we should have an African-owned method because Africa is having a unique model. You know, Africa should not go and pick external models and implement because our circumstances are quite different. And if I'm talking to upcoming researchers that are going to become policymakers in few years, and you're going to be, you need to think about African-owned, African-driven method. Now, I put this slide together to just say, what are the basic philosophy of agricultural change? Because that is where we need to give attention. Now, I understand that change is inevitable. Please kindly confirm if you can still hear me.
Yes, please, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you know, so a change is inevitable. Whether you drive it or you don't drive it, change is going to come. But a positive change must be driven by action. These are basic philosophy, and you need to keep it at the back of your mind. Now, farming exists within the agricultural system. Please understand that also. And any change in any component of the farming system will trigger a response in all other variables and a new equilibrium will be formed. Please, this is basic and conventional, and I like to emphasize it a lot more because this should drive every other thing you do around farming system or food system in Africa. That is a system that is made up of many subsystems that depend on each other in a delicate manner. And so once you adjust any of the variable, okay, it will have an effect on every other variable. Every other variable will respond to it. And the response could be positive, could be negative, and in a few instances, it could be neutral. So every change you see in any variable of the farming system, we come up with a trade-off. And these are basic facts and philosophies. It will come up with a trade-off. And so the trade-off is what you need to look at, before you recommend a change. If you look at the lower part of this, the problems we mentioned it earlier on, the problem of poverty, food insecurity, fragile production assets, degrading natural resource base, climate change, inequality, and related things. Then you look at what are the interventions. The interventions could be technical, institutional, and infrastructural. I will not spend time on this. But you can look at it more carefully. But when you bring in new technology, for instance, the other time, about 2 decades even now, we began to talk about genetic modification, GM commodity. And you begin to see that certain changes began to come into the production system, because now you need to buy the seed, you need to put it on. Even if we don't talk about GM, we talk about hybrid. Those are technological interventions. But you realize that those technological interventions did not lead to too much change in the sector. And you will ask me, because the technological change must be backed up by complementary institutional change and infrastructural change. You will ask me why, when we have hybrid maize that can give 6 to 7 kilograms, why are all farmers not growing it? All farmers are not growing it because of the environment. Number one, the cost, which is even the least of it. But do you have markets to take the yield that is going to come if all farmers grow hybrid maize? I have seen technologies that were introduced and farmers become poorer for it. And so we need to think about the balance of this technical, institutional, and infrastructural interventions. So what are there are certain enablers: human resources, natural resources, partnership, and financial resources. All of these, they are needed. And then when you do this, then we begin to have smart agrarian, especially I call it the development outcome: smart agrarian livelihood, national prosperity, a well-managed natural resource base, and functional ecosystem. Now, look at this. I like to do this since I ran this grant for AGRA. I began to think more outside the theory of action alone to outside the theory of action alone to theory of not theory. I think outside the theory of change to theory of action. And I think that theory of action is the best way to look at this so that we can foster a change. Now, when I mentioned the other time technical action, yes, research, and I listed the things we need to do to foster a transition. Now, there are infrastructural action and there are institutional action. Now, different stakeholders will need to lead this action, and it needs to move to sustainable agriculture in Africa. Let me begin to close, and I'm going to close on this slide to say that when you look at these changes that we really desire, those changes that can take us to the type of Africa we want as specified in Agenda 2063 of the African Union Commission, you discover that certainly it is clear that our farming system needs to change, as well as our food system. Now, what are the research thoughts? Because I think that is more useful for you that we carry on research henceforth. We need to do a characterization of what we call sustainable farming system, more detailed characterization than what we have now. And I'm using this opportunity to talk to Boaz to think about this carefully. We need to characterize it very well and then systematically come up with what makes a sustainable farming system so that we know what we are pushing to the broad stakeholder group. Secondly, having an understanding of the trade-offs of the sustainable farming system, because you're going to fit it on the existing farming system, which will not change in terms of location, in terms of natural resource base, and in terms of commodities. But you need to fit this model into them. When you fit it, there will definitely be trade-offs. So we need to have a pre-knowledge of this trade-off, okay, so that we can come up with method to either benefit maximally from their positives and reduce to the barest minimum the negative effect of the negative effects that may come from them. Then you need to conduct study to define the pathway for transition to sustainable farming system. What are the pathways? How do we ensure that this is institutionalized? How do we convince the farmers to see it? How do we lay up trials, experiment to see and convince the end user? Then we need to do an assessment of the time frame for this transition. How many years are we looking at? Then we need to look at the implementation of sustainable farming system transition on the known and emerging societal issues that are affecting agriculture. Of course, the explosion in youth population is an emerging issue. We had the COVID pandemic just came up and it appears to have died out. The issues of fertilizer, the dangerous statistics around soil degradation, and so on and so forth. So these are research thoughts that you need to put at the back of your mind, and these are topical, and it should be done. And I think on this note, I should stop now. I think I must have finished my time or even overspending. So thank you very much for listening. I will stay around for discussion. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. I think I should give you electronic a clap to say that we're done. Thank you very much for your thoughts on this. You can see the passion at which you spoke about these issues, and you always speak about them anyway. It's not the first time I'm listening to you doing this, so we always appreciate you. Each time you come with a new dimension to the issues. I just want to quickly ask two questions while you take your time to take a cup of tea or coffee. But you will not answer to the questions now, but just to think about them when we come back to the question and answer time. The first one is that how can technology help us to foster sustainable farming systems? We know you sit at the point where you direct innovations in the continent as regards agricultural research. Maybe you can share some experiences from your side, how innovation and technology are driving sustainable, or we drive sustainable farming system. The other thing is probably like asking for partnership. We are a network of mentors and mentees. I want to ask, how can the mentors and mentees partner with FARA to achieve this sustainable farming system? We have a reach of the continent. We have mentors and mentees in all the regions of Africa. So if we want to do anything that is continental, we can actually leverage on our platform to achieve that. So I want to ask, how can we work together to achieve sustainable farming system and also this transition to sustainable farming systems? Those are the two questions to ponder on me. Why I invite my big brother is our big brother. Professor Fatunbi has alluded to that. He's in a big office. I was in his office some weeks ago. Okay, good to say. Okay, Boaz Keizire from Nairobi, all the way from Nairobi, Kenya, will be speaking to us on this farming system. He's very passionate about these issues. I don't know why, but maybe now he's on the hot seat. He will tell us, why do you think sustainable food systems will be the solution, the magic one that we'll be expecting all the while? He has not shared his presentation with me. I don't know, he can speak for hours without looking at the slides, so I don't know which method he wants to adopt today. But brother, you are welcome. Do you want to share your slide or just want to speak to us? Like
I want to do both.
You see, I can't predict you. Imagine that. You always
no, Olawale, I really start by, let me just appreciate you and asking me to speak to this team, and I hope you can hear me all well. But just to really say thank you so much for the opportunity, and also to thank Professor Wole for the wonderful presentation. It is always very hard to speak after some eloquent, clear speaker like Professor Wole. So I know I am challenged, but I will try to do my best. And Olawale asked me to speak about two things, and I hope I'll be able to cover them in a relatively shorter time. Olawale wanted me to speak about CAADP. And I don't know how much of our colleagues in the room know how much CAADP. Then he later wanted me to speak about the food systems in relation to CAADP as well. So I'll try to give justice to both. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Very good. There's something, okay. So I will speak about the CAADP agenda, the Continental Agriculture Development Program, the genesis and where we are today, and then link it to the food systems. Again, just to share with you where all this emerged from, and to be able to, there are so many slides, but don't worry, I will speak about them through quickly. And again, I would assume that most of the people who are listening have never heard about this, or they have heard about it in passing, but just to share with you. In 2003, the Africa leaders thought about, if we are going to remove poverty from the continent, where would be the entry point? Agriculture, because it was constituting most of the people were stuck in agriculture, but were more poor. So they established a continental policy, let me put it that way, like the way you'd have a policy on agriculture in Nigeria, or a policy on agriculture in Uganda, my country, or a policy on agriculture in any country. So they established a continental policy called the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, CAADP. And it was signed in the capital city of Mozambique, Maputo. So that's why it is called Maputo Declaration. Any decision that is made by Africa leaders at the level of heads of state, it's called the declaration. As heads of states of Africa declare that we establish a continental agricultural transformation agenda called the CAADP. So that's why it's called the 2003 Maputo Declaration. 2003 meaning it was established in Maputo in Mozambique. And the goal was basically to respond to hunger and reduce poverty on the continent through agriculture. At that time, there were challenges of how do we make sure that we reduce agriculture? They did research and found that if you increase public spending, the amount of resources that government is investing in agriculture to a level of 10%, a minimum of 10%, if every country increases money to that level, very likely you will get the resources that are required to drive the agricultural sector. Then the question was, how do you drive the agricultural sector? If every country's growth was at the minimum of 6% per annum, agriculture growth growing at a minimum of 6% per annum, and the extent to which it reaches rural areas, that's why you hear inclusive ag growth. Inclusive in the sense that you can have a country that's growing at 8%, but it's just of a few people that are involved. So it needed to be inclusive of all the poor people, the women, the children, the young and the old, and the youth, to make sure that they are part of the agricultural sector. So that's why they made two key commitments: a minimum of 10 public spending to agriculture sector, and a minimum of 6% annual growth. So that is the construct of how CAADP started in 2003 in Maputo, in Mozambique. And it were initially designed to really drive four key pillars at the time that would drive. One was on sustainable land and water management. My friend Wally has talked about largely in that space. Then the other one was make sure that markets are working, because only then producers will be incentivized to drive production productivity. Then the other one was to look at the food supply and hunger, because you can have a country that is growing, that is agriculture strong, but then people are still poor and hunger is still happening. So that's why there was that pillar around food supply and hunger. Then the other one was to put emphasis on where it was coming from on agricultural research, the role of research to make sure that it does not compromise growth and transformation. And so CAADP was implemented from 2003. Some of us, like I was, the CAADP focal point for Uganda. There was a lot of intervention that took place in every country. You design a compact, which is an agreement between the private sector and non-government organization and government and development partners on common agreed areas. So moving forward, after 10 years in 2013, and at that time I worked at the African Union Commission as head of agriculture and food security, we commissioned work around sustaining the CAADP momentum, looking back and what can we do differently to make sure that we drive agricultural transformation. What are the lessons that we have learned in the implementation of CAADP? And therefore, it ushered in the 2014, where again, leaders reconvened in Equatorial Guinea, in Malabo, and made a decision to revamp the CAADP agenda. You know, that's what you see, the 2014 Malabo Declaration. And that Malabo decision was around accelerating agricultural growth. Where growth is happening, accelerate the growth, transform the sector, make sure that it's inclusive for shared prosperity and improved livelihoods. So that was the theme of the Malabo Equatorial Guinea. So, and within that same period, and I will speak about these 7 Malabo goals, within that period, that's when the Agenda 2063 was being designed by the African Union. And the Agenda 2063 was basically like, leaders needed to make a decision. By the year 2063, where should Africa be? The Africa we want. If you close your eyes, create a vision, and want to understand where the continent will be by 2063, where should the continent be? So that's why, and was learning from the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 2 around poverty, agriculture, hunger, and rural development. So the UN at the time challenged everybody in the world, but Africa, we had already developed 2014 CAADP goals. So we said our common position to the UN goals by that time was going to be through the CAADP agenda. And they also designed the 10-year implementation plan of the Agenda 2063. So just quickly to take you through what were the 7 CAADP Malabo goals. 2014, when they agreed, what did they agree? Remember, I told you that in the 2003, the major goals were 2. Increase public spending to agriculture to a minimum of 10% of the total budget annually. The second goal was the sector must be growing at a minimum of 6% ag growth. Those were the goals in 2003 in Maputo. 10 years forward in Malabo, they increased these goals to 7 goals. And this is what you see on the screen, that one was, let's recommit to the principles and values of CAADP process, going back to Malabo, Maputo. The second one was on enhancing investment finance in agriculture, increase public spending. So these were like the first 2 that were similar to almost the previous ones. Then the third one was ending hunger by 2025, and I will be telling you how I'm making progress towards that. Then the fourth one was halving poverty through agriculture by 2025, reduce poverty by half. Wherever you are, by 2025, it must have been reduced by half. The fifth one was boost intra-Africa trade in agricultural commodities, basically like triple Africa's trade from the current levels from agriculture. And when you read the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, that is another decision that has come to boost this particular one. The sixth one was enhancing resilience and climate variability. And that was premised on the fact that while you can strive to drive inclusive ag transformation and food systems, the issues of climate change will bring back the growth and the gains that would have been generated. The last one was making sure that you enhance mutual accountability and for actions and results, making sure that there are M&E systems in place to drive the sector. And then maybe just very briefly to take you each one by one, and I will be very quick there. On the first one, which I talked about, recommit to the CAADP principles. What do they mean? That agriculture must be, it is an agriculture-led growth strategy to achieve targets of food and nutrition security. That agriculture in every country must have a strategy and a plan. But there is another principle, was boost growth through regional cooperation and implementation, that you don't do anything at the country level and think they are going to be enough. You need to invest at regional level, like at ECOWAS, to be able to know what is happening in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Burkina Faso, can be able to trade, can be able to interlink across the region. And also use evidence-based planning, policy dialogue, review, and accountability, meaning you cannot make decisions based on opinions. You must make analysis. And I think Professor Wore was talking about this very clearly. Every decision for planning, for policy should be evidence-based. It should not be opinion of those who put their arms up first. It should be evidence-based. And use partnerships and alliances, just like AGRA, to bring in farmers, to bring in agribusinesses and civil society. The second, which I have mentioned, was invest a minimum of 10%. So they have heard the Maputo Declaration. Create enhanced policy and institutional systems that allow investments to happen on the continent in every country. On ending hunger, these were the three major areas. Double agricultural productivity. It goes back to the 6% ag growth. Current yield of many crops in many countries like maize is 1.8 metric tons per hectare. The challenge here was double, such that it's like 3.6 metric tons per hectare, or even more than double. Reduce post-harvest losses, because a lot of food is lost post-harvest and therefore compromising markets and food security. And then reduce stunting to 10% and children underweight by 5% by 2025. So those were the goals around ending hunger. On halving poverty, they focused on GDP growth, which I mentioned earlier, on inclusive public-private partnerships, creating jobs for youth and women, and making sure that the women are getting decent jobs. So these were, if these are done, then you reduce poverty by 2025. Those were the goals that the leaders made. The fifth goal about intra-Africa trade in agriculture, they said, instead of doubling, you can be trading 50% today, double is 100% tomorrow. They said every country should triple intra-Africa trade in agricultural commodities by 2025. And fast-track the implementation of the Continental Free Trade Area, which was a decision that was made at that time, and the common external tariff. And then help make sure that facilitate agriculture-related trade negotiations and partnerships to make sure that trade is happening. Meaning, if you don't trade, you are compromising farmers' production and productivity. Then the sixth goal was around resilience, the one I talked about, climate change, because almost most farming households are a catastrophe away from going back to poverty. So at least 30% of the farmers and pastor's households are supposed to be resilient. That was the goal that was set for Malabo. If by 2025, every 30% of the all farming households on the continent are resilient, they are able to withstand shocks, they are able to recover if the shock happens. That was the goal that was set there. And then invest in resilience initiatives, and therefore also resilient and risk management capabilities are enhanced. The last goal was, with all those things done, we need to have a results framework, an accountability framework, which was called the CAADP results framework, but done through a biennial review, that every 2 years, and they were challenging the African Union, leaders will meet to review the progress that is being made on the commitments they have made. What is every country is making? And I've been privileged to be part of the team, including my friend Wore, including my friend Arare, whom we have been working together on this particular space, making sure that not only are we putting in place the biennial review or the instrument that tracks performance in every country with indicators, with baselines, with targets, and to see how the progress is being made across the continent, such that after 2 years, the leaders are subjected to a report on how each of them are making. And then the intention was to create a peer review, You know, if I am a president of country X, Nigeria, and I meet in the AU summit, and I find the AU presents a report where my country is not doing well in the area of decision number 6, like on resilience, I should be able to go back and ask my minister why we are not doing well and challenge and bring resources to be able to increase public investments. So that was the intention. Let me quickly, within the short time, take you through the few things on the food systems. So here is the story around the food systems. The UN Secretary General in 2000, actually, the 2000 report of the UN showed that the SDGs, almost all the countries in the world were off track. And this was also in line with the 2019 CAADP biennial review for the continent, that literally few countries are on track to achieve Malabo goals for the AU. Few countries were on track to achieve the global UN development goals, especially SDG number 2. So the Secretary General of the UN called for a food systems summit, a summit that she wanted to bring leaders back to a discussion, to a dialogue, and show what can we do differently to make sure that we are able to restart and jumpstart the way agriculture is being invested in, food systems being understood, because there are so many challenges globally. So in the organization that I work in Agra here, our president, Dr. Agnes Kalibata, was appointed by the UN Secretary General to lead the Global Food System Summit. Then later was asked to be part of the lead person in Agra to make sure that I'm supporting that work with other colleagues. And so the UN Secretary established the Food System Summit. It was a people's summit. One of the key conditions that we are given was everybody in, whether young, old, women, chiefs, you know, the educated, whether you're educated, whether you're not, should be part of the summit. And it created national dialogues, making sure that we are reaching out to everybody and no one is being left behind. And it was also the summit to make sure that the solutions are being created, you know, game-changing ideas, courageous conversations, and building the efforts of governments, making sure that the scientific community is able to bring the evidence, the science, the kind of analytics that are required that are coming from institutions like FARA to be able to ensure that the decisions that are being made are not just opinions, but are coming from scientific group, just like my colleague Wale was saying. So it set the stage for shaping how the continent was moving and the global system, and it was emphasizing the importance of multi-stakeholder engagement, that everybody must be part of that particular engagement. So what did the summit come with? Globally, there were over 163 member states that delivered their statements at the summit. Meaning, and some of you who pay attention to how leaders speak, I know Nigeria are emerging out of the elections, the leaders were able to show up at the summit and make their own statements. These statements are prepared by their ministers. The ministers are prepared by their permanent secretaries. The permanent secretaries, they are prepared by their planning authorities. So it creates an ownership. By the time it reaches the head of state, that means the country has owned it. And Africa showed up. Africa showed up with over 40 statements, 38 out of 55 leaders from Africa were there. They made statements, and that for me ushered in a lot of momentum and energy to rethink the CAADP agenda, to rethink the food systems agenda. And I will explain to you what is the difference between CAADP and food systems. I will just give you a short example later as I move ahead, as I'm about to finish. So, but the most important thing is that the African Union was united. 55 Africa heads of state united themselves and said, for us, we are going to New York, but we need to go there with a common position. So they said, our common position to the UN Food System Summit is presented and anchored with our unanimous voice. So every country presented their own individual pathways, but there was a common position because they needed to write it around CAADP agenda. And one of the most innovative ways, they said, if you have to track food systems for the continent, we do not need another instrument for tracking progress. We only have one CAADP. So enhance it, open it up, reanalyze it, but let's not create another parallel tracking mechanism or for monitoring and evaluation of the food systems. It should be the CAADP biennial review. So I just wanted to give you an example. And this is the work we've been doing within AGRA and then working with countries from what the leaders said in New York, linked to CAADP, what needs to be done differently. You know, the intention there is to showcase, like this is an example of one, and we have a similar one for Ghana, we have a similar ones for Malawi, and we're trying to do this for other countries, looking at the entire food system. And if you look at the supply side, the food supply side on your left, this is what includes the entire agricultural transformation, and I will show you a slide more. Then there is an environment part, the environment, the way biodiversity, dietary habits, they affect the way food is consumed, how it moves from the farm to the household. The health part of the system, food safety, you know, and the nourishment, all these elements that were very critical to CAADP, but were ignored in terms of the way we took them up. And then the socio-economic and political system. So here we are trying to map the existing performance against the global average to see where each of the countries are in terms of global average. So we've been trying to help countries to develop what we call a food system strategy and investment plan by looking at the pathways that leaders made, help design a strategy, and then within a strategy, because people are saying we don't need strategies, we need an investment plan where development partners, governments can put money to respond to the gaps that may be existing. So that's what we've been able to do in the country. And this is just a simplistic example of the elements of the food system. The first part of the food system is the food supply system, which is about farming, logistics, processing, retail, and consumption. And that's what we've been talking about, agriculture transformation. So if you don't bring in biodiversity, climate change, pollution, prevention, care and wellness, food safety, media, education and culture, policy, regional, regulations, governance, all these are very critical to the way you produce food, the way you get it to the consumer's table because of the dynamism and the complexity of the entire food system. So that slide was basically to showcase to you what the diversity of the food system compared to CAADP and the biennial review. This is just an example of the strategy, how it looks like, based on the gaps that have been identified in every country. And once you identify gaps, then you are able to know priorities, because gaps means that you don't enter in a country like Nigeria and think that we've been doing nothing to tell us about the food system. But you have to look at, from a health perspective, from environment, from agriculture, what are the areas that are not invested in that we could actually change the way the food system is thought about. So that's a strategy that we've developed. And within the system, you develop like a business case, an example, an investment opportunity that a different partner can put in resources and really look at it from what is the investment cost, how is this disaggregated between what the government itself can invest in, what the private sector can invest in. This is an example of a small scale solar irrigation facility that is largely like $50 million, but 45 of these 50 million are for private sector investment. And then government can leverage and blended finance of around 10 million to be able to drive the sector. So we have so many of these across the continent. So this is my last slide, my colleagues. What have we been able to do? Build the outcomes of the Food System Summit, where countries showcase their models, move pathways, from pathways, pathways and game-changing ideas were ideas that the presidents made and opportunities that came out of the national dialogues, shift them into investment plans and strategies. So that's what we've been trying to do in box 2, Rwanda, Malawi, and Ghana, and build business cases on what that looks like. Now, we are working with the African Union, now this is the box number 3, to develop a continental framework, just like the way we had the CAADP framework, because people have been asking, so what? How do I now begin to embrace the food systems agenda in every country? So NEPAD, together with the African Union, are developing a guidelines with our support to mainstream food systems into countries. And this guideline is almost ready and to be showcased in every country to see what is happening and the progress. And then lastly, AGRA, the organization I work with, hosts a premier platform called the AGRF, the Africa's Food System Summit, or a Food System Forum, that brings in private sector, civil society, farmers, youth, global business leaders to see what is happening as a lesson learning experience, but also showcase models that are practical, but also match-make business people who are looking for investments to those who already have opportunities in the countries. So those are the pieces of work that we continue to do to make sure that we drive both the CAADP agenda and the food system transformation in the continent. And I know I've taken relatively long, but let me end it there and thank you very much for listening.
Wow. Exciting as always. Almost extempo. But we thank you. We can't thank you enough. Maybe I'll call you nickname now, BK. I just like that one, your t-shirts that you took with your wife. I'm exposing the secret now, but it's fine. It's fine. You are awesome in your presentation. Let me allow you to take a sip. I like you like tea in Nairobi, but let me ask you this question. Yes, show me your cup. Yes, I know. Let me just ask this question, maybe just to relax. Where do you see, you said so much about the CAADP? I guess I intentionally brought that because when I teach, even in class, I talk about CAADP. My students don't understand, they don't know. So I feel that even now that we are focusing on sustainable food system in Africa, it will be good to have that policy background for everybody, that this is what is driving policy, agricultural policy in the continent, whether food systems or any related agricultural policy is being anchored under CAADP. And thank you for doing justice to that. Now, I want to ask, what do you see as potential area of collaborations with the mentors and mentees in the continent? This year, and maybe the next 2-3 years, we want to focus on sustainable food systems in the continent. What do you think we can do together? You have mentioned 12 indicators of sustainable food systems. Maybe we can assist in developing things in that area, because we are widespread in the continent. All the regions of the continent are covered by the program. Then maybe there could be area of consultation in terms of people having 1 week of internship, especially when people who are living in Nairobi. They can just pay 1 day visit to your office. They can be motivated because we want to raise mentors that will be passionate about doing things. But if they don't see example of what is being done correctly, they may not have good information or correct perspective of how to do things correctly. But maybe just allowing them in, maybe 1 day, open day in Agra, for instance, for researchers who are doing things now in this area of space. You can also learn from them, and they can always learn from you. I'm just thinking of ideas, because when we meet, we always talk about ideas and not problems in the continent. So these are the issues I really want to quickly mention. You will respond to them later, but let me go back to my big brother in Accra, Professor Fatunbi. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, now it's time for discussion. We have done the presentation. Now the real task is being about to take place now. I already asked 2 questions. Maybe you want me to remind you? I asked what are the technologies that can help to foster sustainable farming systems in the continent, and again, how can we leverage on the mentors and mentees program to partner with FARA and things you are doing, especially in the continent, outside West Africa and then around the continent. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Wale, for these important questions. And I truly want the mentees on the platform to listen attentively to this, so that when we do things, we do it differently and do it in such a way that it will lead to change. There is no change in any sector in the history of the world that is not built on technology. In fact, technology is the driver of development. Now, but technology only cannot drive development. Technology needs enablers. And that is what I keep using in the course of my presentation, talking about institutional order and infrastructural order. And if you look at the graphics I show, you see that where you have technology and you have infrastructure without institution, you will just explore the system, and at the end of the day, nothing will change. You will just destroy your production resources. where you have technology and you have institution without infrastructure, it leads to further frustration. So you know, the three must work together. We call them enablers of technology. Now, there are a few other things around this technology, and that's where we are failing. You know, the first institutional approach Africa should give is who decides, or how should we decide on the research we conduct that should lead to technology? How do you assess and know that this problem has attained a threshold that require research investment to generate technology? Someone said we have a lot of technologies. We published a paper in 2020. I mean, from 13 countries, data from 13 countries, that clearly showed that Africa did not have technologies. And you know, some of the politicians, they put it and it become a stripe word. We have a lot of technology. What we need is to bring technologies to scale. You get that word? Without any empirical evidence. And so even development partners stop investing into research because of that statement. And when we study, we discover that we don't have enough technologies. In fact, those ones that you have technologies, they are misguided. They are not addressing the thing, so no one is using them. If you scale what no one is using, I mean, you remain on the same spot. And that is why it is important for us to use empirical evidence before we promote statements. So we don't have enough technologies. That's one stripe word I want you to knock out. Now, this issue, we've been talking about CSA, Climate Smart Agriculture Technologies, is that not? And we published a paper in 2022. I mean, when we review it, what are climate smart agriculture technologies? That's another confusion. When we look at the technologies that people call climate smart agricultural technologies, they are old moribund practices that we rejected because they are not productive. So when you say you are pushing out those things again, who is going to accept it from you? And this is where we need to think as next generation of researchers, I mean, thought leaders. What I will call climate smart agriculture technologies today should be unique way of doing things. You can blend old, new, but there must be unique way. It must be gender sensitive. It must be youth applicable. Okay, to maybe do your farming, do your processing in such a way that you manage the environment. So technology must be aligned also with needs. All of these things, they require conscientizing this next generation so that they do the right thing. So let me stop there. Don't forget that I said technology is vital. Without it, we cannot move. But it needs all these enablers for it to orchestrate a change. As it relates to the issue of partnerships, our program partnering with FARA, a lot of opportunity exists. Like, you know, FARA is a partnership organization, just like my brother Boaz also said. We partner a lot with AGRA on a number of things. FARA also partners with the broad stakeholder group. It's actually the convener at the continental level. Specifically for this program where you have mentor, we have the head holistic empowerment program. It's a capacity program that links people with other universities across the globe. We use South and North-South. One of my colleagues is leading it. Opportunity exists there for partnership for young people that are coming up. Then continental convening, we can link together and bring up these young individuals to participate in different continental. Of course, you know that there is never enough resources to take everyone at the same time, but we can do evaluation, make a call, people come in, so that it looks like youth engagement. You get it for things. So those are the few areas we can look at. Thank you very much, Wally.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Again, I know these are the things you always do, but I just want you to use this forum to bring it out that yes, FARA is involved in this. I recall the CSA conference that we had in Accra. You used your good office to bring in some early career researchers to that conference, and those are some of the things we also want to leverage on. Especially our mentees that are maybe close to the venue, or may not be flight ticket, it may just be a local transportation just to bring them in. This comes to my mind now, the conference in Durban may be one of the ways that we can explore, especially those who are in South Africa can use that opportunity to come around and see how things have been done correctly, because it's organized by FARA. Thank you very much, sir. We do appreciate that. Back to my big brother in Nairobi. Now you have had your cup of tea. Are you now relaxed to speak to us on the issues I've raised? So which area do you see partnership? I just highlighted a few, maybe there are others, but we are passionate about sustainable food systems in the continent between now and the next 3 years. 2023 to 2025. And we want to key into the agenda of AGRA. We know AGRA organizes AGRF, you organize things. How can we leverage on some of these things that you already do? So it's not going to be additional cost, but if they're going to be additional costs, you are solicited for funding, and you can introduce as a component of capacity development, because we already have a structure that you can just leverage on. Say, okay, through this project, we are going to train 1 postdoc, 2 doctoral, and 4 masters, through the African Graduate Mentorship Program. I mean, that would be one way that we are considering. Maybe you have an opinion.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my friend. Can I ask you 2 questions, just a yes or no, to contextualize my question?
Yes.
And one of the most things I am liking is about the mentees.
Yeah.
So what is the age group? Because are they youth? Are they more youth? What is the age group of most of your mentees?
In fact, in our selection criteria, we say those who are between 20 and 35.
So that's youth, exactly.
Yeah, youth.
So
yeah, it's youth.
Exactly. Yeah. And I asked that, and how many of your mentees? Oh, yes. Anyway, I want to assume they are all Nigerians, right?
Oh, that's why I said all Nigerians are not coming from all the continent of Africa, of the countries.
Are they covering outside Nigeria?
Yeah, that's what I said. We have mentees in all the regions: Northern Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa, West Africa, Central Africa.
And
all the 5 regions.
I apologize for not hearing that properly and asking again, just to confirm.
Yeah, it was
and here is the reason I was asking.
Okay.
Because as AGRA, we are establishing a program focusing on youth in agriculture for jobs. And in the program, our focus is that we build the capacity. First of all, expand the agricultural business and space, more SMEs are created for youth and jobs. But we have a space for mentoring, inspiring, and strengthening the capacity of youth to be able to create jobs. At continental level, we have a continental pillar of which it focuses on how do we make sure that we are facilitating exchange and peer learning. As you write, and some of the studies that most youth run, when they see doing it, they are likely, the probability for them to do it is high.
Exactly.
And therefore, a peer-to-peer learning is so critical that we believe that the moment you bring these mentees to a certain session, or even facilitate them to be at the AGRF, with not just AGRF to listen to the big people or guys like me speaking, but create where you can really bring a coaching, a mentorship program around how to showcase models that are working in each country. And not only at AGRF, but also begin to create opportunities for visiting different countries to see how a real business incubation is being done. The intention is jobs. The intention is to inspire. The intention is to create peer learning. The intention is to make sure that we are helping the youth to identify and create jobs, and also those who are already in the jobs to expand their businesses, to be able to, because the business, when they expand, they create additional jobs.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to announce that this is a program will be starting this year for the next 5 years.
Oh, great.
And I'm just only saying it because this particular mentorship program that you have started is going to be listed as among the ones we will target to be able to use the mentees to facilitate these particular learnings. Because what I know that on the continent we are lacking many of these type. We have the CAADP Youth Network, which you know very well.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit limited in the space. We have the AU Youth Agribusiness Strategy, but it's just being led by a few people. So platforms like these for us as an entry point. And I'm hoping that I'm answering your question directly, that we will have to be very, very deliberate. And I don't know whether I'm putting myself on the spot, but I don't care, as long as my job is to help and create opportunity for people like you and people who have showed up to, to mobilize youth, to make sure that you are creating opportunities for them, to push us to come and speak to them and go back and think about knowing that they are there is going to be our daily business. It's not a favor, we are paid to do it, but I'm also having a passion for making sure that the youth are able to learn more from their colleagues, they are able to be mentored, and only then we will see the Africa that we want, a better Africa, very well grown, and we'll push for it.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like clapping, applauding that. It's like, I mean, giving us everything that we ask for 100% in this case. But again, we know that if we are doing the right thing, the provision will come along the way. What is important is just start the process and it will move. So on behalf of the board of this program, I want to thank you for acceding to that request. I don't want to be the only one asking this question on behalf of the mentors and the mentees. Maybe there are some questions in the chat room that I would want to, or I saw, yes, Dr. Awotide, would you like to use your microphone to ask your questions? You can post your question to any of the speakers. They are friends that you know.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for this wonderful and insightful presentation.
Can we see your face, please?
No, please, I'm not in a position to show my face.
Okay. Okay. Can we know your location and your?
I'm in Mali. I'm in Bamako, Mali.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
Yeah, that's my current location for now.
All right.
Yes, I'm responding to. I don't have any question for now, but I'm just responding to what Professor Wole Fatunbi said concerning climate smart agricultural technologies.
Yeah.
And I was trying to give a further explanation that indeed there are CSA technologies that are currently being disseminated in Africa. But the main thing that I noticed, having worked on such a project for more than 3 years now, I can categorically say that the classification would depend on the location. If a technology cannot survive, for instance, in the Sahel region, you cannot say such as climate smart. Because when you talk about climate change effects, you can see it here. We experience it here. Farmers are going through it. So if you bring such a technology to another place, and they might not really survive. Because for instance, we talk about a maize variety that can still grow even with just 2 weeks of rain, you will see harvest. So that can be classified as climate smart, or a kind of a technology that can survive under flooding or drought. Those are the kind of climate change effects that you can experience here. And then if you have such a technology here and they are still surviving, farmers can still produce, they are still harvesting, I think that can be classified as climate smart. That is my own opinion.
Yes, thank you very much. What I can also get from your intervention is that the farming system, its standpoint is the farming system. The farming system may not change, but due to other factors, you need to consider certain things to add. And we also did a study on suitability of irrigation, because when you bring blankets technology and say climate smart agriculture, then you say, okay, one of them is irrigation, but it's not everywhere that irrigation will be profitable. So we also look at profitability of some of these things and the trade-off. But essentially what is important is sustainability of this thing, because climate change variability comes as form of variability. Therefore, it is difficult to predict the sustainability at one point. Professor Fatunbi, you want to say something to that? I think it's just a compliment to what you said earlier on CSA. Professor Fatunbi, are you still there? Okay, maybe he stepped out to take, what do we eat in Ghana now? It's lunchtime in Ghana. Okay, do I have any other questions for distinguished speakers, please? From the mentees now, or maybe I should identify some regions, because BK was wondering, is our program continental? You just asked somebody from Bamako. Let me speak to call Ahmed. Ahmed is from Algeria. Ahmed, do you want to ask a question? Though you say your internet is not so strong, but do you want to ask a question or just want to say hello to?
I think I.
Yes, just to convince Boaz.
Hello, Doctor. How are you?
Fine. How are you today?
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you. Do you want to ask any questions? Yeah, about
okay.
youth engagement and opportunities for collaboration and things? You are free.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doctor. I was listening both of our presenters. They were really giving us the knowledge that we need to know about what's going on in our continent. So getting to the point straight, I was thinking about the gaps in our continent, and I saw that from right now, in my experience, I saw a lot of projects going on, most of my home country, and there is still gaps that they are not giving a good outcome, like something that the continent can broad off. So based on our presenters, I just want to know that how we can improve our continent in terms of production, in terms of technology. Can we like see come up an idea that maybe modeling thing like setting up an idea that can we test one country. For example, we can test a country that produces some species in agriculture or maybe in animal, and then when we get that result and use a available technology that's really need to be increase our production, and then we see if this outcome can increase the availability that we have in the continent. So let me just say, that
Yeah.
how we can improve the continent in terms of agriculture sustainability.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to say that Ahmed is a doctoral student in the university in Algeria. Let me call on Ngozi just to establish a male and female, one from the north and one from the south, again to convince my brother. Sename, can you say something? Ask questions? Sename is a postdoc. Sename, are you there, Ngozi? Otherwise, can I call on Mary Gishore from Nairobi? Or Margaret? I just need a lady's voice. Who's coming? Ah, Mary, you made it.
Yes, I did.
Yes, speak to your brother, Boaz. He doubts that we are not continental, and I'm telling him that we are continental.
In fact, we are continental, and even within the country, we are well spread.
Yeah, Mary is from. Yeah, tell us what you do and your location so that I can convince him.
Yeah, I am a lecturer in Kenya. There's a university called Chuka University on the eastern side of Kenya. But professionally, I'm a vet, and I have an interest in livestock economics. So currently I'm doing a project on the working donkeys, the many challenges they are facing, and to try and see, with all the interventions that have been made, the donkey still has a very poor image. So I want to look at what is really lacking, where is the missing link, so that many households depend on donkeys, so that once we look at the link, we can improve sustainability in terms of the households who depend on these donkeys. So even with that brief introduction, I could throw in my question.
Oh yeah, I thought that's a question already, but
yes.
Your brother
I've always, there are many programs on climate smart agriculture, and even in Kenya there are, and most of these projects are focused in the dry areas. So I was trying to look at the point number 6 on building resilience, and I'm looking at what about those areas that are not necessarily dry areas, the areas that are prone to floods, such that those people cannot farm sustainably throughout the year because of the risk of floods. So I'm looking at the opposite. Instead of looking at too much dry condition and therefore bringing in climate smart projects in the dry areas, is there something like climate smart agriculture in the opposite, the areas that now have the danger of too much rain or the periodic floods, and therefore what can happen? Just thinking out loudly.
Yeah, thank you very much. You have opened another space of conversation instead of looking at irrigation all the time. But there are areas we also have surplus water, and it's not just about cropping, but also about the living conditions. Yeah, because we talk about
and even the animals there, because you hear they are the livelihood. Yes.
And talking about the animals too, there's a concept of One Health, whereby you consider human life, animal life, plant life, everybody, every system holistically. I think that's one area that we also need to consider. I'm sure my brother Boaz is now convinced, right? You want me to add more? I've taken north and south.
Because I'm running short of time myself.
Yes, it's fine.
But I see very many hands. I don't know whether those ones are targeting me as well. But let me just, to a colleague from North Africa, I think he raised the fundamental questions. What are the opportunities? Are they there? Can we tap into? So I think I really want to encourage him to, because his question was, how can we improve productivity and the technologies? What are the technologies needed? From a farming perspective, the fair known ones, and I think my dear friend Prof. Ware was talking about them earlier, you need the right seed. If you are going to be into a farming business, you need the right seed, hybrid variety that's able to give you a better yield. Seed alone cannot work. You need a right fertilizer that is understood in the geography. So there should be some national program that allow you to be able to understand the type of fertilizer blends you require. But more importantly, and especially for the youth, the markets must function for you to be incentivized to go and buy the right seed, to go and buy the right fertilizer. So the markets is what the national government is working on. The markets are there. If you grow maize, there is a market for it. If you grow soybean, if you grow tomatoes, if you grow watermelon, there is a market for it. But the very big opportunities for the youth are also in the digital space, to create a programming mechanism that allow you to be able to trade commodities on digital platforms. Those are places that you can find in the agricultural service industry. So there are huge opportunities there. We can talk about them as we move along. I think my dear friend Mary from Eastern Kenya raises two fundamental comments. I like listening from the story around the economics of donkeys. In economics, everything that comes into your mind is, where is the demand for donkeys? Is it for transport? Is it for meat? Is it for, so to your good point of saying, they have a bad image. I like this part. You know, donkeys have a poor image. I don't know, that's sort of the mindset of us individuals, and you're trying to look at what are the opportunities to increase that image. But that was for information, and I like the way you phrased it. But from a resilience perspective, your question around resilience in many cases is seen from the drought perspective, you know, too much drought or lack of rain, and therefore what needs to be done. But we also have the opposite of that, and we've been studying it. In fact, recently, I think 2 years ago, we wrote a paper on the floods that hit Eastern Southern Africa. It was called the El Nino, the impact of El Nino induced changes in Southern Africa, where most of the Southern Africa countries were hit by huge floods that washed away a lot of not only household products like livestock and houses, but also washed farms away. So some of the solutions that we begin to think about, especially from an agricultural perspective, is adopting some of the technologies like tubers that allow farming households to recover faster. If it's for example, potatoes or the ones that really grow, or cassava, the probability of them not being washed away is high compared to when it is like maize and hit by hailstone. You know, that's too much rain or hailstone, and they can disrupt the farms. So if you have a product that is able to withstand such a drought and help a farming household to recover from the shock faster and better, those are the ones they are called flood tolerance technologies that allow people to be able to recover from shocks relatively fast. And then I can share one of those papers for you to look at, you know, creating opportunities for those technologies to be adopted by most farming households in that space. So I'm there, and I know.
Yes, I think we have to stop now. It's been almost 1.5, almost 2 hours now that we started, and we promised that we only have 90 minutes. So we apologize for this. I will call on Okpeyemi to give the vote of thanks. Then we'll say announcement later, then we'll go. But let me thank our guest speakers, Boaz and Professor Fatunbi. I think he has stepped out, but we appreciate you for this, and we have opened the platform for further discussion on ways to collaborate. And we sure maybe starting point is I need to give you the mapping of the mentees and mentors. What are the areas? What are they doing? Where the locations? So then prepare a short concept note that we can throw around in case there are fundings to support in the different regions of the continent. So thank you very much. I promise I will do that the next 1 week. Okpeyemi Odola, please give vote of thanks on behalf of all of us.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Are you sure your face, please? Okpeyemi, introduce yourself where you're, so that you are from another region of Africa.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Okpeyemi Odola. I am from Nigeria. My video is not on, sir.
Okay, go ahead, no problem. Nigerians don't
I'm from Ibadan, Nigeria, a student of Sustainability Department, Master student, University of Ibadan. I'd like to say thank you very much to our 2 guests, Professor Wale Fatunbi and Professor Boaz Keizire, from my pronunciation. Thank you so much, sirs, for the very expository presentations on farming and food systems. On behalf of all the mentors, the president of the coaching program, and all mentees, would like to say very big thank you, and would like to partner with you, would like to hear more from you, and believe this is just the beginning of this great work. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Professor Lau, there are so many questions on the chat. You can send them by email. I can respond to them later and then send them back.
Okay, we will do that. We'll copy it. Okay, can you please help me to extract all the questions and send to me later today? Thank you very much, Boaz. Thanks to colleagues in the office. I appreciate all of you. Bye for now, please. Okay, mentors, dear mentees, please stay. Let's quickly have this a brief discussion. I wanted to give you the agenda an announcement. Let me see if I still have that. By the way, did you enjoy the presentations?
Yes, we did.
Okay. I'm happy. It was intentional. I wanted to bring both of them. I know they do a lot in the continent, in the space that we are considering, and having both of them and committing both of them publicly will help us. So I can just follow up with them and say, oh, we discussed this the other time. What are the opportunities? And I know they organize meetings every year. So my focus this year is that all of you, you must have opportunity to at least attend one physical conference where you are, at least. I know it will be difficult to have flight tickets to travel from country to country, but at least where you are, where other people have come, you should also meet them there. You should be the one hosting them in your country. So we're exploring the opportunity in Nairobi for the agroecological conference. Some of them have received. Mary, do you want to say something on that? What's the updates on that? I know some of you have received acceptance and rejection, maybe sometime. Mary James? Is she still there?
Is it Mary or Margaret?
Sorry, Margaret. I don't know why I'm missing Mary and Margaret. Okay. Okay, I see now. Maybe Margaret will say something now. Margaret.
Yes.
Margaret, are you there? Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, say something. You are quiet today. All
That
right,
was an amazing presentation on the agricultural systems, and I totally agree on maybe visit here and there to see the systems that are already working and what we can already learn and start implementing in our, small spaces. Like as youth, we don't really have much land because land is owned by our parents. But
but you can leverage on technologies, online things, developing applications, facilitating engagements. There are a lot of things that I do. I'm doing research again.
Totally.
Okay, now talking about the agroecological conference, do you have any updates on
that? They already sent the verdicts. Like if I don't know who has received an acceptance, but for me, they said the theme and my work wasn't really aligning with the conference they're trying to prepare.
Jennifer,
and also,
is Jennifer here? Jennifer received an acceptance, I guess.
Cargo.
Jennifer Cargo, yes. And she told me about the fee, and I said she should not worry, she should process the full paper. Is Jennifer here now? Jennifer or Moses? I can't see that.
I can see her.
What about
I don't know whether they still have classes.
Oh, maybe they have classes today.
Yeah, they still have
but that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm aware that Jennifer, because she contacted me and that she has an acceptance and she was worried about the payment. I said, no, she should not worry about the payment. She should just first worry about developing the full paper. Then we'll talk about the rest later, because I will be asking for waiver anyway. So anyway.
Okay.
But I just as we discussed this last month or this month now, early this month, that we're coming through another platform, not necessarily as presenters, but as volunteers to assist for the conference. So even though your paper may not be accepted for presentation, but you will still have opportunity. I'm praying, yes. You still have opportunity to pass the test.
I hope so.
Yeah, and volunteer to serve. Yeah. Because it's going to be a big conference, and you will be inspired. Yes, that's the essence. Some of the things that I'm having very useful to me now, that I'm doing now, giving back to you now, are the things that I garnered when I was attending conferences, even though I was using my money. But I came to a point in 2017, I said, I promise God, I don't want to ever use my money to travel again. So at that point, I was looking for opportunity. If anyone is not sponsoring me, I don't travel. So, but I feel now that I can also be facilitating that, leveraging on my network to help younger people like you. Yeah, essentially that's what I'm doing. So thank you for the feedback on that, but look forward to it. It's next month, March 22nd or 20th to 24th or so.
So will
Nairobi.
you reach out to them about that?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes, I'm in touch with them. David Amu Davi promised he will get back, but I'm just taking some time. I know what it takes to organize conference, so I don't want to be putting pressure on him, especially when I'm asking for a
Right.
favor. So I want him to
Okay.
sort out. I know now they are responding to acceptance or rejection, and also asking for people to pay for the conference, because the venue they want to use is very expensive and they need to raise money.
Yes,
And all
Safari
that.
Park.
So if you are
is very
going with
expensive.
asking them for free when they are looking for money, it's not a good mood for them now. So I understand the mood and I will ask them at appropriate time. Maybe next week I'll just follow up. Yeah. Okay. So that's what I want to do for Nairobi. For those in Nigeria, of course, we have the Circularity Africa Conference. Yeah, that would be. And those who are maybe in West Africa, like those who are in Benin Republic, Ghana, Togo, maybe we'll see what is possible. Then there's also a conference being organized that will be organized by Farah. I mentioned that in the course of the webinar, that we this program, okay, that we need to work with Farah for the Durban conference. So that will be held in South Africa. Then those who are staying around the Southern Africa region, South Africa especially, can also use that as a leverage to attend the conference. The one I'm yet to get is Northern Africa and Central Africa. I know before the middle of the year, something will happen that we need to communicate. And thankfully, we still have Sohi. Sohi, how are you? Do I speak French to you now or speak English? Okay, can you unmute? Yes. Are you still there? Sohi, please. Oh, you are speaking, but we can't hear you, right? Oh, okay. Okay, maybe she will log out and come in again. Okay. Can you hear us, please? Maybe not really. Okay, so Sohi is in one of the mentors in Northern Africa. So I'm hoping that she will also inform us about opportunities to engage in that region. Because I want us to have some location-based interaction, because this is the first time. We have always interacted online. But from this fourth cohort, we decided that we'll create more opportunities because of the review of the past 3 cohorts. And one of the things they always ask for, we need physical interaction. So that's why I want to create that minimal interaction. So yeah, are you back? Okay, oh, she's not able to speak. I don't know what the problem is, but it's okay. As I said, we'll look for opportunities for you. Maybe you can also, if you get any information too, that we can leverage, let us know. We may just be fortunate to know 1 or 2 of the members of the organizing committee whom we're able to work with to make that a reality. Coming back to announcement.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay,
Sorry.
très bien.
Yes, please. Did you hear what I said, please?
A little bit, sorry.
Okay, let me take it again. I was saying that we're trying to create some clusters of participation for the mentees, especially. For instance, in West Africa, we have the Circularity Africa happening in Ibadan. In South Africa, we have the FARAP conference happening in Durban. And well, we don't know. Also in East Africa, we have the agroecology conference happening in Nairobi. So we're thinking maybe you are aware of any program or conference that will come up in Northern Africa, maybe Tunisia or Algeria, that
Yes.
Those in the Northern Africa can attend.
Well,
good afternoon, Doc.
Good afternoon. Yes, I'll come back to you, Ibrahim. Yes. Sorry, continue.
Well, about the conference, until now, we haven't already organized something about this. But for sure, for example, for CAADP, for example, we are trying to do something in Tunisia. So I hope if it will be the case, for sure, we can look for inviting peoples from the region. But until now, just what I said, that we haven't already something something planified or
Right.
something. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Sonia.
very welcome. It's
I
my
hope you're doing
pleasure,
well.
really. Really.
Good.
Okay.
Ibrahim, you wanted to say something? Ibrahim? Ibrahim from Ghana? Okay, otherwise, let me continue, but note that we'll try to facilitate something around the regions for you to participate physically. And again, if there's any opportunity to go the extra mile of moving from West Africa to East Africa, we don't want to foreclose that. But again, the minimum we want to get is that within your region, you are able to attend a large meeting, a conference, and interact with scholars. Yeah. So I want to take you back to your deliverables so that you keep that in view as we do all these things. We wanted to take good photograph. Oh, I forgot. Okay, how many of us are still here? 24. Okay, we'll still take our photo within ourselves, but maybe not with the speakers. Now they are gone. So you need to attend to participate at the monthly meetings as we have. I'm sure we'll try to make it exciting for you. So please, as much as lies in your capacity, please attend. All right. 75% of attendance, yes, is what we require. The second thing is that we'll give you survey every quarter. For instance, next month, there will be, at the end of next month, there will be a survey for you to just to ask some questions about your status in your research, and maybe there are things that we can easily address before it becomes too late. So we'll do every quarter, starting from next month. The third thing I wanted you to know is that whether you attended physically or participating remotely, you need to be involved in the conference organization, okay? So maybe at the appropriate time, maybe next week or so, we have many things to do. But again, let's see how you can volunteer to be anything in the conference. You can be the moderator of online session. You can participate any way. You can participate in the social media team by sharing the information in your platforms for other people to participate. So we will be asking for ways where you think you are most comfortable in participating. But again, just know that we want you to participate actively, okay? Whether in person or remotely. Especially those who are in Nigeria, yes, of course, they will have to be more active in their participation. The fourth thing is that you have to keep your eye on your paper. Now you have an abstract, whether accepted or rejected. If accepted, then you need to rework it, prepare the full paper, and start building on your paper. If not accepted, that is rejected, maybe there are comments, work on them, and maybe it's not the appropriate conference. We just say send to any conference. So if you are rejected, it's not because your ideas are not okay, but it's because maybe it didn't meet the requirement of the conference. Maybe the conference is looking for certain things that you don't have. But again, discuss with your mentors again and repackage and look for appropriate conference. But don't forget, you must attend at least one conference. Secularity Africa Conference is likely to accept all of us because it's our program, and that gives you the minimum confidence to be able to send your papers to other conferences. So you need to focus on journal paper or a book chapter or a policy brief. I was thinking through the night, how can we make this easy for you? Because I know we have three levels. Somebody that's just starting master has never written a paper, a journal paper, and maybe a very tall order for such a person. So the minimum you have is to develop a policy brief of 4 pages that we will publish, okay? For those who are in doctoral, yes, maybe you had some experience in writing paper, but if it's a book project that is available, you can put it. But for those in postdoc, it is compulsory that they have a journal article. So we have it in 3 levels. The minimum for masters is policy brief. The minimum for doctoral is a chapter of a book, in a book. And the minimum for postdoc is journal article. So just note it as you are developing. It's not to say that a postdoc cannot write policy brief or you cannot write a book in chapter, but your minimum, those ones will be addition to you in complementary, will be complementary to the journal article that you must have, because at postdoc, that's what's most important deliverable that you should have to show for the year. And I've already said you are using secondary data or you are using a review. So you don't have to do primary data collection, all right? So that's the essence I just feel I should emphasize that. Number 5.6, that submission of fellowship report or memorabilia. So we will take photograph, good photograph, but start documenting all the events or activities that you are participating and take the photo. I told you earlier, create a folder, put it in the cloud, in your Dropbox, in the Google Drive, and every time you engage under this fellowship, make sure you write a paragraph and with a photo attachment, because it will be useful by the time you are writing your end of fellowship report. Apart from the conferences, we have identified 3 of them so far: Agroecology Conference, Secularity Africa Conference, and there's a third one. Which one is the third one? Okay, the Malaysia Conference, the International Sustainable Development Research Society Conference. So this, apart from these 3, you are free to attend and the South African Conference. Apart from these 4, you are free to also identify with your mentors, identify other conferences, okay, within your country and outside your country. So we are not restricting to you, but we just provide minimum platform for you to say, oh, these are the conferences in case you have not found any. But we know that you should find more because you are a researcher or you are researchers. So you should find more conferences to attend, especially online conferences, okay? So that you can build up your CV and your reports that we expect at the end of the fellowship year. The other thing that we'll also be bringing to you is to expose you to some short courses. We tried 2 last year. We still want to build on those 2 because they are relevant to what we are working on this time around. There will be one on resilience analysis, and there will be another one on how to write for the media. I've already contacted the one for the media, the Conversation Africa. Yes, discussion is in progress, but I've not confirmed the date. I proposed to them, I think April, May or something, but maybe March, I don't know, but depending on what comes. So beginning from next month, between next month and July, we're going to organize the 2 short courses. There may be more, but these 2 we already have relationship with the organization that will bring this on board. So I just wanted you to know those 2 things. Let me pause. I'd like taking feedback. Do you want to ask any questions based on this? I just feel I will be showing this every month so that you by yourself will say, oh, I've done this. Oh, I need to do this. I need to do that. Because we need to keep in remembrance of this. Otherwise, it becomes too late when it gets to the last quarter and you are thinking of, oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have done that. It should be too late by that time. Someone wants to say something? Akim, you have been so quiet. Akim Lukwa, you want to say something? I see you now. Gambo Abubakar. Yes, Mary. Go ahead. Unmute yourself. Abubakar, you say something? Gambo?
Yes, I wanted you to repeat on number 5.
Okay, Abubakar, I'll come back to you. Let me respond to Mary. Number 5,
Yes,
submission of
please.
fellowship report. Okay.
Yeah.
You will be expected to write a report of the fellowship year, your activities, okay? But maybe something to help you. Go to the website of the AGMCP. Okay, maybe if I can show that now. Let me stop sharing screen. Let me see if I can go to the website and show you what I mean. Yeah. I always like to demonstrate. I don't like cramming things. Yeah? AGMCP. By the way, your website will be set up by the end of this week. Yes, so by next week, you'll be able to see yourself on the website, right? Okay, this one, okay, you may not be seeing it. Yes, let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen, please? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is what I mean. You will see this person, Marius Afofre. So this is the way you will be on the website. So this is for the last cohort. So because they have completed, so you will see memorabilia attached. So you click on this and you will see the reports that I mean, or what I mean. So this is his own report of his experience of last year. So the agenda I gave them is that there will be introduction. You will tell us about the experiences, activities, and output of the fellowship year. You will tell us most significant contribution of the fellowship to your professional career. You will tell us, you suggest for AGMCP management, maybe some suggestions for improvement. Then there are important people you want to acknowledge that have contributed to the success of the fellowship year. You will say them here, including your mentors and the management of AGMCP. Then you will give us your full contacts. So that's it. You see what I was saying, that you should keep photos and screenshots. For instance, he attended a webinar and he picked the screenshots from there. Yeah, and this other one, he attended the Circularity Africa conference and he picked that. Just to remember, then this one, one of the short courses that I mentioned, facilitated by Conversation Africa, writing for the media. So you have a certificate from that. Then he was also involved in other conferences, you see. So don't just focus on the conferences that we announced to you. You also look out for opportunities to participate, to improve your capacity. And yes, samples of the things he learned, suggestions, then his acknowledgements, acknowledge images and mentor. And he also gave his contact details. So are you okay now? Mary?
Yes, I'm fine. I wanted to look at, I was specifically interested in the photos and screenshots, but now I have an idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, yes, Abubakar Gambo, you wanted to say something?
Hi, Doctor. I just wanted to say that I'm listening to you. I have listened on the two presentations, especially the one on the Maputo Declaration. It was a point I have raised to state the food issue in Niger. So I was really happy to hear about CAADP again.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll try our best to bring you everything you know.
I was saying, since the Maputo Declaration, Niger has surpassed the share to allow 10% of the budget, but still the food issue lingers. So
it's a problem. So it may not be, yes, again, it creates cause for asking questions and asking, is it about the money or about effects or the impact on the ground? Because you can throw money in the wrong places. You just say you are giving money to agriculture. Maybe you are just using the money to buy jeeps and buy travel to other countries. I think we don't know the utility of the funding, whether it's really going to call investments to change things on the ground. For instance, if the money are not being invested in post-harvest loss, for instance, you continue to produce, but you lose as much as you produce too.
Actually, so that means maybe it is not used in an efficient way.
We think it's not just investment, efficiency of the investment.
Maybe they are buying a laptop, 1 million safer, so the real beneficiaries are not benefiting from the programs. We have a lot of programs, but still food issue is a real problem in Niger.
Yeah, and maybe everywhere too. Maybe you are conversant again, but I tell you that it's not only in Niger, but it's everywhere. Okay. Do I still have Buluwaga here now? No. Okay. Let's take a screenshot. Can you put on your video, everybody, if you can? Let's have everybody on video. Then I take a screenshot. Yes, yes. I want to see everybody now. Yes, show me your face. Some of you have never seen your face before. Okay, more people come in, please. Your faces, I want to see. Okay, come on, come on, come on, come on. Yes, yes. More people, yes. Okay. Waiting for others to join. Yes, who has not turned video? Abubakar, you have not turned on your video. Akim, you have not turned on your video. Do you want me to mention your name, please? Quickly.
I'm here. Have you seen me?
I have seen you, yes, yes. I've not seen Ngozi. Ngozi, can I see you?
Okay.
Prosper, can I see you? Femi, can we see you? Prosper, please. Buluwaga, can we see you? Yeah, Buluwaga is here. Buluwaga, please show the screenshot. Ah, fantastic, is here. Dr. Ebenezer Idowu is here. Yes, yes. Are you just joining us, or you've been with us?
I joined a few minutes ago.
Maybe
like 10 minutes ago.
It's
a pleasure to still catch up.
We are just doing
yes, you are working on the last slide. That was when I came. To see Margaret James and Tita Voga and the rest of other people here.
Okay. So let's take screenshots. Please take from your end as I take from my end too. Everybody take photo. Yes, smile. Okay, smiling, smiling. And by the way, we're also on YouTube, so you'll be able to watch this on YouTube later on. And again, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube. The YouTube is Images Initiative. Just go on YouTube, Images Initiative, and we'll be there. Okay, thank you very much for showing your faces. Yes, good to see all of you. And one more, if you want to ask any question, otherwise I want to close now. It's been more than 2 hours on this call. Anybody wants to say anything? You remember something quickly to say? Or no? Anybody? Okay. If there's none, okay, I encourage you to have a wonderful week and look forward to other details from us for all today. Okay, let me say this. Today is the last day for submission of abstract for Secularity Africa Conference. So if you have not done that, please do it today, because we'll close submission today, and from tomorrow we'll begin to reach out to those who have submitted abstract on whether those abstracts are accepted or not. And again, it begins the process of preparation, rounds of preparation for the conference. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming and for engaging today. I'm looking forward to see you in the next webinar. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.